And Mike, looking at the other conferences, who do you have?
Well, in the ACC, I'm also going to go with Virginia Tech. I think the ACC Coastal Division is going to be a very, very competitive, strong division. I'm biased. Obviously, North Carolina returns tremendous talent on defense. They were a top 10 defense last year. They return a whole set of guys that could have been, top 3 or 4 round draft picks this season. So I like North Carolina and I like Miami to really compete hard with Virginia Tech. And then Georgia Tech, the defending ACC champions, they'll be in there. They've lost some guys, but they have Nesbitt returning at quarterback. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. In the SEC, Alabama, Julio Jones, Mark Ingram, and McElroy. I mean, that team is sound. Their recruiting class was very strong. Their defense, offensive line, everything clicks. I don't see them having too many problems getting at least to the SEC championship game. I think they'll face Florida, John Brantley. They return Moody, Rainey, and Demps. There's a lot of talent. And Florida signed 17 ESPN top 150 recruits. So they will be ready to compete with Alabama.
Well, and Urban Meyer apparently is the head coach there. So,
yes. So a lot of people might put the Gators down a little bit, in terms of winning the SEC. But watch out, if Brantley has a good year, they could run the table.
This Florida-Alabama, this is going to start becoming a rivalry if they keep meeting each other in the SEC title game.
If it isn't already, yeah.
Yep. In the Pac-10, I'm going to agree with you. I like USC. I think Arizona could make a push. Nick Foles is a good quarterback to transfer from Michigan State from 2 years ago. He's a solid player. They also return Nick Grigsby, who had a solid performance here against Iowa. So watch out for them. The Hawkeyes will play in Arizona, so we'll get to see how they'll perform earlier in the season on the road. In the Big East, I like Pitt, Wanstash, as some like to say. Dion Lewis they return, who's arguably one of the best running backs in the country as a freshman last year. They returned Jonathan Baldwin, a wide receiver who I was very high on last year. Of course, they lost Doran Dickerson, who's going to be probably a tremendous NFL player and get drafted very highly. But watch out for Cincinnati, Zach Caleros, the quarterback there. Butch Jones coming in from Central Michigan. We'll see how that plays out. I think Rutgers can be competitive. Greg Schiano's been winning bowl games. The Big East will not be a strong conference, but the teams within it will compete well with one another, and it's going to be tough. It's really early. It's hard to see who's going to win.
Caleros has never lost a game as a starter in high school or in college.
Yes.
And they almost yanked Pike to go with Caleros against Pitt. Grigsby, he had a good game against Iowa on one play. Solid performance. No.
Yeah, and he battled some injuries this season.
I'm giving you a hard time.
That hurt him.
I'm going to go.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to see my Big 12 pick. I apologize. I think Nebraska is going to win the Big 12. They're going to beat the Big 12 champion. I think what they have, Roy Helu Jr., Zach Lee, quarterback, shaky, but I think he can get the job done. Defensively, they're strong. They return Niles Paul. They return their tight end, Mike McNeil, who's a solid player. I like what Bo Pelini's, the way he's taken that team, riding the momentum from last season. I think Nebraska gets the job done over a Texas team who has a younger quarterback who is Garrett Gilbert. We showed a lot of flashes of talent. Oklahoma with Landry Jones, a good quarterback as well. Oklahoma will be a solid program. I think they're going to win the Big 12 South, but I think Nebraska takes the BCS bid from the Big 12.
Boy, and when Texas goes to Lincoln, I wouldn't want to be Texas going to Lincoln, and I wouldn't want to be somebody who doesn't have season tickets because you're going to have to pay a high price to see that game.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that game, to be honest.
Yeah.
Jordan.
Sorry to cut you off for you guys. Your Big 12 pick. I'm going to go SEC, Bama. You mentioned it. McElroy, Ingram, Julio Jones, and they're returning just so many crucial parts of that national championship team. Pac-10, I'm also going with USC. The talent there, Lane Kiffin clearly improved Tennessee in 1 year drastically, and I don't think there's going to be much of a letdown when he goes to USC. But Zona's my sleeper, Nick Foles. I think he's going to be good. He gained the starting job in Iowa City last year in the middle of that game. And shame on Oregon because they could have had a Pac-10 dynasty ahead of them. And Jeremiah Mazzoli has to go ahead, and that would have been the hands down.
Mazzoli, they were my pick when Mazzoli was playing next year. Yep.
Nope. So shame on you, Oregon, because you really had something special going, and you blew it by getting in trouble off the field. Big East, I'm going with Pitt as well. Dion Lewis will be the Big East Player of the Year in my mind. I think he's just a phenomenal player, and Wanstedt really did a great job scouting and recruiting because he was not that highly touted to perform that way as a true freshman.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt, but I think that quarterback battle there will be interesting. Bill Stoll moving on. Tino Sinceri, I was reading on Pittsburgh's athletic website. He looks like the guy. I know nobody knows who that is, but he looks like the guy that's going to step in, redshirt sophomore, a lot of talent. So I think Pitt with that running game and then having Jonathan Baldwin they'll win the Big East.
I'm going to go ACC Virginia Tech because I just think Georgia Tech would have been definitely a top 10 team going into next year, but then they lose everyone.
Yeah.
They lose some of the best players from their team last year. I know they get Nesbitt back, but he really didn't function that well if it weren't for guys like Dwyer, who could really carry him. They lose Derek Morgan on defense. That'll hurt them. And then I'm going to Big 12, Texas. Garrett Gilbert will step on the field and will be a better quarterback already than Zach Lee. He had flashes of brilliance last year, but he also had flashes of what are you doing, head-scratching moments against Iowa State. I just don't think Zach Lee can play enough games consistently. But then again, I expect the Big 12 North to skate their way to the Big 12 title game. Nebraska to skate their way through the Big 12 North to that Big 12 title game. If they can get there, they definitely have a shot at winning, but we'll see how that all plays out. I think Texas, though, will take care of business.
Watch out for North Carolina as a sleeper, though.
I think
telling you, with
that-
that
I put
defense.
them down. I put
that
them down.
defense,
Week
I
one,
am
they
biased.
play LSU in the
Watch
Georgia
out
Dome. We'll
for
find out.
UNC.
When we talked
right?
about
They're
this,
good,
UNC
so-
UNC opens the season neutral site versus LSU, then they play Georgia Tech at home, they play at Rutgers, then they play East Carolina and Clemson. So if they get through that stretch somehow unharmed, I think they'll be making a run for a BCS title game. I'm not trying to get crazy here, but I mean they do have a tough schedule.
Yeah, and 2 minutes to go now. What coaches are sweating it off this offseason, and they might be in fear of losing their jobs as we go through next season? So coaches, hot seat time. I got a couple names. I think we can all agree the unanimous number one has to be Rich Rodriguez. Or at least maybe we can make that debate just because of what he's done the last 2 years. This team hasn't gone to a bowl game. This team hasn't had a winning season. The new stadium renovations are done, and people just aren't happy with what this defense has been doing under Greg Robinson last year. So I think Rich Rodriguez, number one. 3 other coaches I'll quickly mention. Hawkins, 4 seasons, no winning seasons. Lost to Toledo on the road last year, got killed. A lot of people are surprised he's even back for 5th year, so I think he's second. Third, Zook. Look what they've done since they got into the Rose Bowl, 5-7 and 3-9. This is supposed to be a team that have turned the corner, but now they're just pedaling backwards. And fourth, I think Dennis Erickson at Arizona State. A couple years ago, they won 10 games. In the last 2 years, 5-7, 4-8 last year, and then only won 2 Pac-10 games last year. So I think Dennis Erickson would have to be the other one. Any other names you guys want to throw out?
I'm going to put Tim Brewster in that mix, but I think the 3 most noticeable ones are out of the Big Ten. Tim Brewster, Ron Zook, Rich Rodriguez, 3-2-1 like that. Their programs have not been heading in the right direction the last couple of years.
My top 5 quickly. Tim Brewster, like you said, 0-9 in trophy games, 0-2 in bowl games, no significant wins in the Big Ten, no real significant out-of-conference wins either. He's going to be in trouble if he can't at least get to 6-6 and get to a bowl game this season. Rich Rodriguez, I think he's 3 Big Ten wins. He's got to step it up. That's all there needs to be said. Ron Zook, 2007 Rose Bowl. Haven't been to a bowl game since. Number 2, Ralph Friedgen out of Maryland. He was 2-10 last year.
Yeah.
He at the beginning of his career, he had a lot of success. He did well, got him to a BCS bowl game. Ever since, it's been real shaky. They've had some signs where they showed signs of beating some good teams, and then they lose to some bad teams, like losing to Middle Tennessee State the last 2 seasons. Yeah. And then number 1, I think, is Dan Hawkins. I can't believe that Colorado didn't fire him after the end of last season. I think at the end of this year he will be fired. I don't see Colorado winning more than 5 games at most.
Yep. Okay, so we want to comment on what you've seen. uioist@gmail.com. For Mike Rabin, Jordan Loprena, I'm Alex Salzma. Good night and go Hawks, because just remember, come December, I'm the only one who said the Hawks were going to win the Big Ten on this show. So just remember that. See you next time.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah.